play Deafhood trading card game. If by the end of the video you still have any questions, feel free to ask us. Are you ready to learn how to play?
Let's begin.
Let's begin. So first off, there are three types of cards. There are the person card, the effect card, and school cards. Okay, let's take a look at the person card. There are four things to know when looking at a person card. There's the cost, which is how much this card costs to play it. The type. There are two types of person cards. There's manualist and there are oralist. Third is the effect. This is what the card actually does and the way it interacts with the game. And fourth is the impact value. I'll go into that later. Okay, so I mentioned the cost. This value right here indicates how many resource points are required to play this card. You obtain resource points by playing school cards. This is a school card. There's only, as you can see, a school card doesn't have any effect. It only says +1 resource. School cards are the foundation of the game. The more school cards you have in play, the better your plays can be, and the bigger cards you can play. Now, school cards have no cost and they can be played directly from your hand. Once a school card enters the board, it stays there for the rest of the game. But you can only play one school card per turn. Let me show you an example of the way the school cards and costs work. So in this situation, I have 3 cards in my hand. I have 1 person card and 2 school cards. Now I want to play Nancy Rourke. I want to play this card, Nancy Rourke. First, I will play 1 school card for my turn. I can only play 1. Next, I want to play Nancy Rourke. Her cost is 1, as indicated here. In order to play her, I must expend 1 resource point. You show that you have expended a point by tilting the school card sideways. This shows that this resource card cannot be used for the rest of the turn. Now, since I have expended 1 point, I can now play Nancy Rourke from my hand since she costs 1. I have successfully played a person card. Now, for the second item on a person card, it is their type. As I've mentioned before, there are 2 types, manualist and oralist. A manualist card, when you play it, when you have paid the cost, you play it on your side of the board. And the oralist types, you play on your opponent's side of the board. I'll go into detail as to why later. Start. The third item on a person card is the effect text. As I mentioned earlier, it is the way that this card interacts with the game. This effect text indicates what actions need to be followed after playing the card or while the card remains on the board. Let me show you an example. For example, we have that deaf guy in our hand and we want to play him. We will expend 2 points to play that deaf guy onto the board. His effect text reads that when that deaf guy enters the board, you may draw 1 card. So when this card enters the board, then his effect activates. Now he may draw 1 card and add it to his hand. Cut. Another example is Alexander Graham Bell. His effect text reads, your manualist type people cards cost 2 more to play. This means that while this card remains on your side of the board, any person card that you want to play with the type of manualist has an increased value of 2. So for example, that deaf guy has a cost of 2, but you have Alexander Graham Bell on your side of the field. His cost is now 4, as long as this card remains on the field. Now the fourth item on the person card is the impact value. Now before I get into the impact value, I must tell you exactly how to win the game. To win the game, you must obtain 25 deaf knowledge points, otherwise known as DK points. Once a player has reached 25 DK points, that player wins the game, and the game is over. And the way to obtain those DK points is through this impact value right here, as shown right here. Okay, every time it is your turn, you do 2 things before anything else. One is you add 1 card from the top of your deck to your hand. This is also known as drawing a card. And 2, you add up all the points, all the impact values of the person cards on your side of the board, and the total is the DK points you've earned for that turn. Let me just show you. So it is my turn. Tony has forfeited his turn, and now it is the beginning of my turn again. I will draw one card and add it to my hand. Then, before doing anything else, I will count up all the values of impact that I have on the board. So it is 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. And then this person has a negative impact, an impact of negative 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. My total is 2, and therefore the deaf knowledge points that I earned for the turn is 2. You can keep track by using a notepad. So I had 0, and now I gained 2 for the turn. And that's the reason why you play Oralists on your opponent's side of the board. Oralists usually have a negative impact value. So when you play them on your opponent's side of the board, you're actually hindering their turn. And so those are the 4 important things you need to know about a person. We went through the cost, the type, the effect, and the impact. And that's all you need to know about a person card. And now this is an effect card. You can tell because it says effect card right here. There's only 2 things that you really need to worry about in an effect card. One is a cost. This cost is paid exactly the same way that you would pay a person card. And second is the effect. Effect also works the same way that a person's effect would. The only difference between an effect card and a person card is that an effect card will never stay on the board. Once the actions are followed for the effect, the card is immediately moved to the discard pile. The discard pile is just a pile of cards that have already been used or they've been removed from the board by an effect. Cut. Okay, so I have a Through Deaf Eyes card in my hand, and I want to play it. So I expend 3 resource points to play Through Deaf Eyes. Now the effect text reads, I target one Oralist type person on my side of the board, and I send that target to the discard pile. So once I play the effect card, I target this Oralist card and I send it to the discard pile. Once the actions have been met, then the effect card also goes to the discard pile. And that's how you play effect cards. So just to reiterate, this is what a board will normally look like. This over here is your deck. These are the cards remaining that you haven't played yet. This right here is your discard pile. All cards that have already been played. This front row is normally going to be your manualist and Oralist type person cards. And the bottom row is going to be their schools or resources. This is what a board will normally look like. Cut. So this is how the game is going to be played. You just you play school cards. You expend the resource points that the school cards give you to play person cards or effect cards. Every turn you're going to add up points from your impact value and see who gets 25 first. That's how you play
Deafhood.
trading card game.
Enjoy.
Cut.